I'm 37 years old, a medically retired military veteran, and currently I work from home while taking care of my three children, two boys and one girl. I had always imagined my life differently, but the truth is, I really enjoy spending time with my kids and being a present dad. However, there are moments when life throws comments at you that, even though small, linger in your mind more than they should. A few days ago, during pickup time at my oldest child's school, I found myself chatting with a group of parents. As often happens in these situations, we started talking about our kids, how things were going with them, and eventually the conversation shifted to the little ones still in diapers. It was a casual conversation, nothing out of the ordinary. We were sharing experiences and laughing a bit about the typical adventures that come with having small children. Suddenly, one of the moms, whom I honestly didn't know very well, chimed in with a comment that left me frozen for a second. She said something like, "You shouldn't be changing your daughter's diapers. That should be your wife's job." At first, I took it calmly. I have pretty thick skin and don't usually take these kinds of comments to heart. I even made an effort to keep the conversation light, quickly changing the subject. But as the days went by, that phrase kept replaying in my mind. Why would someone think that about me? I deeply love my kids, and I would never let anything bad happen to them. The idea that someone could question my role as a father or suggest that my gender makes me less suited to care for my daughter really started to bother me. I don't plan to say anything to this woman if I see her again because honestly, it's not worth starting a discussion. However, I can't deny that her comment has changed my perception of her. It makes me want to be less friendly if we cross paths again. Update 1. Wow. This post has gotten way more attention than I ever imagined. I want to thank everyone for their kind words and for validating how I feel about this situation. I'd love to respond to every positive comment, but there are just too many. So, a virtual high five to everyone. After reading hundreds of comments, I decided to take things a step further and join a support group for parents in my community. I won't lie to you. At first, I felt a bit uncomfortable with the idea. I've always been a fairly private person, and opening up about my experiences as a parent, especially about something as personal as this incident, didn't come naturally to me. But I decided to give it a shot. I thought, if so many people here on Reddit could offer me their perspectives and support, maybe talking to other parents in person would be just as valuable. The group meets once a week at a local community center. The first time I went, I found myself surrounded by people who seemed to come from all walks of life. Young men who were new to fatherhood, seasoned dads with teenagers, and even some grandparents who were helping raise their grandkids. What stood out was that we all shared a common goal: to be better parents and support our families in the best way possible. During the session, everyone had the opportunity to share something about their recent challenges and victories as parents. I was nervous, but I decided to be honest and shared my experience. I talked about the comment I received from that mom at school and how it had been bothering me more than I expected. What surprised me was that as soon as I finished speaking, several people began nodding their heads. I wasn't alone. Some even shared very similar stories. There was one man in particular who left a big impression on me. Let's call him Miguel. Miguel is a single father to a young daughter. For years, he has faced constant criticism from family members and strangers alike simply for being a man who takes care of his daughter full-time. He told me about a time when a woman at a supermarket accused him of being inappropriate just because he was helping his daughter adjust the dress she was wearing. His story made me think a lot. What impressed me most about Miguel wasn't just what he had faced, but how he chose to handle it. Instead of letting negative comments get to him, he used them as motivation to educate others about what it means to be a present and committed father. He even started a small blog where he shares his experiences and advice for other dads. His message was clear: don't let stereotypes define you. I left that meeting with a mix of emotions. On one hand, I felt relieved to know I wasn't alone. On the other hand, I couldn't stop thinking about how much of an impact other people's words and attitudes have on us, even when we try to ignore them. It also made me question something. How can I be a better example, not just for my kids, but for other people in my community? What has become clearest to me after this week is that being an active father doesn't just benefit my kids. It also challenges and changes perceptions of what fatherhood means, especially for men. And although this journey won't always be easy, I'm determined to keep going. For now, I'm reflecting on what I learned from Miguel and the other dads in the group. I'm considering ways to contribute more actively to this conversation, maybe even by sharing more of my own experiences, just as I'm doing here. But that's something for a future update. Update 2. I don't know how to begin this update because, honestly, the conversation I had with my wife last week completely left me at a loss. It all started one evening after the kids had gone to bed. I decided to share with her how I'd been feeling ever since that comment from the mom at school. Although I initially didn't want to talk about it, not even with her, the truth is, it was affecting me more than I wanted to admit. I sat with her on the couch, and while we were going over a few things from the day, I brought up what had happened. I told her how that seemingly harmless comment had stuck in my mind and how it had made me start questioning things I had previously taken for granted about my role as a father. She listened attentively, something I always deeply appreciate about her. But then, when I asked her what she thought, her response surprised me. My wife looked at me with a mix of empathy and concern and said, "I want you to know that I'm completely on your side with this. But I think there's something you need to know about how I was raised, something that might give you a bit of context." What followed was a conversation that completely changed the way I viewed this situation. It turns out that, in my wife's family, there was an unspoken rule. Tasks related to childcare, especially the more intimate ones like changing diapers or bathing babies, were considered exclusively the responsibility of women. Her father, she said, was a loving and very present man, but he never got involved in those aspects of daily care. Not because he didn't want to, but because my wife's grandmother considered it inappropriate. In their household, it simply wasn't something men did. And this belief was passed down from generation to generation. As my wife told me this, I could see the discomfort reflected on her face. She said she grew up assuming that was the norm until she met other families where fathers shared all responsibilities. She confessed that when we had our first child, it initially felt strange to her that I was so involved in the day-to-day care of the kids, even though she never mentioned it because she knew there was nothing wrong with it. However, she admitted that those old values were still present in some corners of her mind, and that, at times, it was difficult for her to fully let go of them. This revelation made me think a lot. On one hand, it helped me understand that the mom's comment at school didn't come out of nowhere. It reflects a mindset that is still deeply rooted in many people, even in those we love most. On the other hand, it also made me realize that while I've tried to be a present father and challenge these stereotypes, I probably haven't spoken enough about why it's important for me to do so. The conversation with my wife ended on a positive note. We both agreed that gender stereotypes in parenting are harmful, not just for parents, but also for children. We talked about how we want to raise our kids in an environment where they can see that both parents are equally responsible and capable. We also discussed how we might start challenging these stereotypes within our extended family, even though we know it won't be easy. Another thing that struck me was when my wife said, "I never realized how much you've taken on at home until I started hearing other moms talk about how little their husbands help. Sometimes I think I don't even thank you enough." It was a moment of deep connection that reminded me why we're a good team, even when we don't always see it right away. This experience has given me a lot to think about. I realize this isn't just a conversation about an unfortunate comment at school. It's an opportunity to reflect on the broader dynamics that affect our families and communities. And while I'm still processing everything, I'm grateful to have had that conversation with my wife. It's given me a new perspective and, frankly, brought me closer to her. In the next update, I want to share more about how this experience is not only changing the way I view parenting, but also how I plan to approach these topics with other people in my life, including those moms at school. Update 3. A few days ago, something happened that, if you had told me about it a month ago, I would never have believed. I received an unexpected message from the mom who made that comment to me at school. Yes, the same person who planted that idea in my head and who, unintentionally, sparked all this introspection about my role as a father and how society still clings to harmful stereotypes. The message came in the afternoon while I was sitting at my desk working. I saw it pop up on my phone, an unknown number with a message that started with, "Hi, this is the mom's name from the parents group at school." My first reaction was total surprise. Why was she writing to me? What did she want to say? I won't deny it. There was also a bit of irritation as I remembered everything that had happened since her comment. But curiosity got the better of me, so I opened the message. What I read left me stunned. In summary, she apologized. Yes, she apologized for what she said that day, and not only that, she admitted that her comment had been insensitive and based on prejudices that she herself was trying to overcome. She told me that after our conversation, she had been reflecting a lot on her way of thinking and how these beliefs affected not only other people, but also her own children. The message said something like, I want to apologize for what I said that day. I was wrong to assume that there are tasks a father shouldn't do, and I realize that my comment was unfair to you. I've been talking to my husband about this, and I think we've both been influenced by outdated ideas about what it means to be parents. Seeing your dedication to your children made me realize that we need to change our way of thinking. I hope you can accept my apology. Can you believe it? Honestly, I didn't know how to feel about it. On the one hand, I was grateful for her honesty and bravery in recognizing her mistake. Not everyone has the capacity to do that, especially on such a sensitive topic. But on the other hand, I was left wondering why she had decided to write to me instead of talking to me in person. Was it guilt? Shame? Or did she simply want to leave the issue behind without facing it directly? I decided to respond cordially, thanking her for taking the time to reflect and for her message. I told her that I appreciated her words and hoped this experience could be an opportunity for all of us to grow and learn. I also mentioned that, although her initial comment had upset me, I was glad to see that something positive had come out of all this. I'm not sure if we'll ever have a face-to-face conversation about this, but at least I feel like a chapter has been closed. However, after receiving her message, I started reflecting more deeply on the reasons behind these kinds of prejudices. Where do they really come from? Is it just a matter of tradition and culture, or is there something else at play? And most importantly, how can we break away from these ideas so they don't continue to affect future generations? I talked to my wife about the message, and her reaction was similar to mine. Surprise, followed by a kind of relief. We both agreed that while her words of apology were a good start, real change has to be reflected in actions. My wife even suggested that we could organize a small talk or meeting with other parents at the school to discuss topics like equality in parenting and how we can support each other as a community. I think the idea is interesting, although I have to admit it makes me a little nervous. I'm not exactly the most outgoing person when it comes to public speaking, but I feel like it could be worth a try. Something else that has become clear to me during this process is that stereotypes don't change overnight. They require uncomfortable conversations, introspection, and above all, a willingness to question what we've taken for granted for years. The mom's message was a reminder that we are all at different stages of this journey, and the important thing is to keep moving forward, even if it's just small steps. In the next update, I hope to share more about how this experience is influencing my relationship with other parents and the conversations I'm having, both at home and beyond. For now, I'm grateful for the opportunity to reflect and grow, and for having a community like this where I can share my thoughts without fear of judgment. Update 4. A few weeks ago, something happened in my family that left me speechless, and not in the best way. It was a powerful reminder of how important the role of each parent is in their children's lives and how our actions, or even our omissions, can have a lasting impact. It all started on a normal Sunday afternoon. My daughter was playing in the yard while I was fixing some things in the garage. My wife was in the kitchen, and my older kids were immersed in a board game in the living room. Suddenly, I heard my daughter cry. It was a loud cry, the kind that makes your heart stop for a second. I ran to her and found her sitting on the ground, covering her face with her hands. It turns out she had tripped over one of the tools I had carelessly left out near the grass. It wasn't a serious fall, but she scraped her knee and was clearly scared. As I carried her inside to clean the wound, I realized something. This moment, though small, represented something much bigger. While I was cleaning her knee, my daughter looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Dad, you'll always take care of me, right?" That question, so simple and direct, hit me like a brick. I realized that for her, it didn't matter if I was the dad or the mom, or who should do what according to social norms. All that mattered was knowing that I was there for her, ready to protect and comfort her whenever she needed it. That same night, my wife and I had a deep conversation about what had happened. We reflected on how our everyday actions, even the smallest ones, shape how our kids see us and how they face the world. My wife confessed something to me that she had never shared before. When I was a child, I always wished my dad had been more present in my daily life. Not just as a provider, but as someone who participated in the little moments, the ones that really matter. Her comment made me think a lot about the conversation I had with the parent support group a few months ago and the message I received from the mom at school. I realized that it's not just about challenging gender stereotypes. It's about ensuring our kids grow up feeling safe, loved, and valued. That can only happen when both parents are present and committed, regardless of what society says. A few days after the incident, something else unexpected happened. I received a call from my father. We don't talk much, but this time was different. He told me he had read one of my posts. Apparently, someone in my family had shared the original post with him. He admitted that my experience had made him reflect on his own role as a father while I was growing up. He said something I never thought I'd hear. "I wish I had been more present for you when you were little." That call was a moment of catharsis. For the first time, I felt that I wasn't just challenging stereotypes for my kids. I was also helping to heal generational wounds within my own family. I told my father that, while there were things I wished had been different, I was grateful for the effort he made to provide for and care for us in his own way. By the end of that week, I decided to take things a step further. Together with my wife, we organized a small gathering at our house with other parents from our children's school. It was very informal, just coffee, cookies, and an open conversation about the challenges and joys of parenting. Surprisingly, the mom who made that comment was present. Not only did she participate, but she also shared her own process of unlearning ideas she had inherited from her family. It was a moment of genuine connection that reminded me why it's so important to have these conversations, no matter how uncomfortable they might be. Now, 3 months after that first post, I feel more confident than ever in my role as a father. I've learned that parenting isn't perfect, nor does it need to be. It's about being present, learning and growing alongside our kids, and not being afraid to question the norms that no longer serve us. See you in the next chapter, whatever that may be.